months, I've been skeptical about the trade negotiations, even though we clearly had the upper hand. I figured the U.S. and China were too far apart on these issues, so both sides would try to hold out until something changed the equation. Then today we learned the Trump administration's reached a preliminary deal with the Chinese that takes next week as planned tariff hikes off the table. So how the heck did that happen? If you take and take and take, once you simply stop taking, it's a big deal. I think that's been Trump's strategy all along. In the last few months, he's added multiple schedules of tariffs that were set to go higher automatically. He made these ever-increasing import duties the new normal. He's also placed restrictions on visas for anyone connected with China's human rights abuses. He stopped key components from going to one of the world's largest telco companies, crushing the leadership in 5G wireless. What else? Trump's put on onerous sanctions on Costco, COSCO, the largest shipping company. Very important. After years of expansion blessed by other presidents, Trump is encouraging American companies to stop building new factories there, and it's working. His tariffs have forced our businesses to change their supply chains. They've basically had to cut China out of the picture as fast as possible or face ruinous tariffs. Last but not least, he's hinted at the possibility of capital constraints, making it harder for Chinese companies to raise money here in the U.S. You know what? It's been a relentless and kind of uncovered assault. Maybe China would have been able to handle the trade war on its own, but they've also had to deal with these seemingly endless protests in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong situation makes the Communist Party look weak, look bad, lose face. But there's no way to handle it that doesn't make them look even worse. When you were worried about an NBA general manager of not real consequential, let's say, standing, tweeting that he favors freedom of action in Hong Kong, you are not the paragon of virtue and growth that almost always fawning media says you are. $40 to $50 billion agricultural buys, they've now become the ante for more concessions, not the be-all and end-all, not what the trade talks are about anymore. And they almost never seem to materialize, even as the Chinese need them out of the country, need them from out country, regardless of the concessions. In other words, they need our ag business with or without. Now, even though China's unfair trade practices hurt every country they do business with, especially Europe, none of those countries decided to join our trade war. I get it. China's the EU's largest trade partner, so confronting the Chinese government has much higher stakes for them. But every time the Communist Party does something appalling, it gives the Europeans one more reason to form a coalition against the People's Republic. In other words, if they crack down on Hong Kong too aggressively, they may end up with a trade war on multiple fronts. And that's why every weekend the party's resolve seems to weaken. When China's brought in the army to crush the Tiananmen Square protests 30 years ago, the country was much more isolated. They had very little to lose from bad publicity, and that is no longer the case. So whether you love President Trump or you hate him, he has the definitive upper hand here. Unlike the NBA or Apple, own it, don't trade it, by the way, as it just hit an all-time high, Trump doesn't care about losing access to the lucrative Chinese market. That's why he was able to win some important concessions, agricultural purchases, intellectual property protections, in exchange simply for not ratcheting up the tariff torture. It's why we got this preliminary deal. Unlike virtually everyone else in the media, I've told you all along, we can hurt the Chinese economy a lot more than they can hurt our economy. I think they finally realized that they can't afford to keep taking these hits, and it's cheaper to just give Trump what he wants. In other words, hate him or like him, the strategy is working. Stick with Cramer.
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on Twitter. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadTweets. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.